Deep in the heart of India, swallowed by mist and legend, lay the weeping, cursed woods. Villagers spoke of it in hushed tones, their eyes wide with fear. They said the forest held on to those who dared enter, their souls claimed by the ancient curse. No one who ventured too deep didn't return at all. The trees themselves seemed to weep. Sap ran like tears down their bark, staining the ground a sickly yellow. The air hung heavy, thick with the scent of decay and something else, something ancient and unknowable. The sunlight, struggling to penetrate the dense canopy, cast long, eerie shadows that danced and twisted like phantoms. The stories, passed down through generations, whispered of a powerful sorcerer who, betrayed by his love, cursed the forest. His anguish, they said, seeped into the very soil, poisoning the woods and everything within. The villagers believed his tormented spirit still wandered the woods, seeking retribution. Even the bravest hunters refused to venture too far into its depths. Their fear was a tangible thing, a suffocating blanket that smothered any glimmer of courage. The weeping cursed woods remained untouched, a festering wound on the face of the earth, feared and avoided in equal measure. Raju scoffed at the villagers' fears. A strapping young man of 18, he prided himself on his logic and scoffed at superstition. The stories of the weeping cursed woods were nothing more than that. Stories, he'd argue, spun to keep children in line and the superstitious in check. Ghosts and curses? He chuckled, shaking his head. Those are just stories for those who are afraid of the dark. He'd heard the whispers, seen the fear in the eyes of those who dared utter the forest's name. He'd heard tales of faceless creatures and disembodied voices, of people driven mad by the forest's oppressive aura. But Raju refused to be swayed. He craved proof, tangible evidence that went beyond whispered tales and frightened glances. So, armed with his youthful arrogance and a thirst for adventure, Raju decided to venture into the heart of the weeping cursed woods. He was determined to debunk the myths and prove to everyone that their fears were unfounded. He would be the one to conquer the forest and its supposed curse. He would be a legend. The morning he chose for his grand expedition dawned bright and clear, the sun an unexpected visitor in that part of the world. It was almost as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what Raju would do. Ignoring the pleas of his worried mother and the concerned stares of his fellow villagers, Raju strode confidently towards the tree line. He carried a backpack filled with supplies, water, some flatbread, a compass and a flashlight. "I'll be back by nightfall," he'd assured his mother, his voice ringing with false bravado. "You'll see, these woods are as harmless as any other." His words were swallowed by the thick silence that descended as soon as he crossed the invisible boundary and stepped into the woods. The sunlight, so cheerful moments ago, seemed to dim instantly, the air growing heavy and cold. Raju shrugged off the sudden chill, attributing it to the dense canopy overhead. He pressed on, his footsteps echoing eerily in the unsettling quiet. As he ventured deeper, the forest seemed to close in around him. The trees, ancient and gnarled, twisted into grotesque shapes, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The air grew colder, thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. The silence was broken only by the rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth and the occasional unsettling caw of a crow. The further he went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. It pressed down on him, suffocating, stealing his breath. Then, he started to hear the whispers. They were faint at first, like the rustling of leaves, but they grew steadily louder, weaving around him, seeming to emanate from the trees themselves. He couldn't make out the words, but the voices were filled with an ancient sorrow, a deep, abiding despair. Shadows danced at the edge of his vision, twisting and turning, taking on monstrous shapes that vanished when he turned to face them directly.